The following is a paid commercial program brought to you by Galo Entertainment.
Imagine you are a criminal defense attorney representing a person who has committed a heinous crime. You despise the crime committed, yet you believe in due process. You believe that everyone should have a fair trial and be presumed innocent until proven guilty. And most importantly, you understand why this person felt they had no choice but to take another person's life. Because you grew up in an environment where drugs and violence were imminent. You've tried to suppress this background. That is what makes you good at your job. And you can't help being reminded every time you have a new client to represent where you've come from. Sounds like fiction, doesn't it? Well, it's not. This is the memoir of criminal defense attorney Ted Johnson, revealed to us in his first autobiography entitled Faces I Have Seen, a Memoir of Murder.
My work became very stressful and I needed to find a release. So I began to write. While writing, I found myself evolving through an entire range of emotions, including love, anger, and being judgmental of people. I was astonished by the ease of which people can exploit and inflict inhumane acts on one another. I also found significant parallels between the people that I had represented in murder cases and the people I knew as a child. When the jury returned to the courtroom, the judge instructed us to stand as the verdict was read. As I always do, I sighed and gasped for air. The four persons stated, "We, the jury, find the defendant as to count one murder, not guilty." There was a pause for just a second before everything hedged along in slow motion. "Count two. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of felony murder." Sarah turned and fell on me and sobbed openly. It felt so right, even though it wasn't supposed to feel like anything. She was a client. After Mr. George was released on bond, he courted me like I was his newfound friend and son. I admittedly played into it. He was like the father I had long resented. But now I had the opportunity to do something for him, to show him who and what I had become, to see the approval and validation I thought that Daddy owed me.
In reading this memoir, I found it different from other biographies that I've read because when he looks at other events and he juxtaposes their stories with his stories. And I just found that very interesting. You can see how he relates, and then at times he's like, okay, this is how I'm different from them. So I just found that very interesting.
I think it was vulnerable of him to expose his own personal life while telling the story of his cases.
I agree with that.
That was very vulnerable, bold, and I mean, it kind of makes you, I mean, a little bit maybe want to meet him. To me, it's more than an autobiography. To me, it's kind of more of a study of who this person is compared. It's a mirror to the people that he's surrounded by. You know,
why is he attracted?
Yeah, why is he attracting these people? And he himself, he sees himself in these people. You know, and I just think that that part is very interesting and fascinating. And you know, because the stories are a bit scary, you know, it's kind of scary too. And I'm sure for him, having to take a look at himself through these people, I'm sure he found out a lot about himself too as well.
Never before has there been an autobiography this raw and vivid. Order now and be astounded by this amazing book. Listen to what other readers and those in the legal community have to say about Faces I Have Seen.
I'm standing here with Judge Moore, who's an absolute trailblazer for women in the state of Georgia, as well as the first African-American chief judge here in the state. How do you know Ted?
I had Ted practice before me, as he was a young lawyer trying cases in the Superior Court. He is just a brilliant young attorney. He displayed his brilliance when I was on the bench. I'm so very happy for him in applying it in another way that is truly a catharsis based upon the seriousness of what he deals with each and every day.
Absolutely.
So I'm very glad that Attorney Ted Johnson is one of the faces I have seen.
What do you think about the book, Ms. Dawn Hardin?
The book is very thought-provoking, very emotional, very intense. I would say intense is the word. Language, a little raw, but revealing.
Yes.
Not repulsive.
Okay.
It speaks of the emotion, but it's really a good book. I read it in like 2 days.
So do you think it would be the same without that language that you speak of?
No. You have to have that to tell the true story.
Yes.
Okay? Because the word, the language speaks the emotion. It speaks volumes to what Ted was feeling as he was representing the client.
Okay, well, wonderful.
But it's a great book.
You gonna read it again?
Yes.
And
I
again?
love it. I can't wait till volume 2 and volume 3 comes out.
Oh, me
Okay?
too.
I think the book is insightful. He tells some and explains some difficult circumstances in his life, and I wanted to be supportive of him and of the people that he writes about in his book.
Little Junior told me of the story of being shot at in the presence of his father. So I knew he wasn't lying or exaggerating. Even upon hearing Little Junior's story, I thought about how my father beat my brother in the head with a hammer. My brother was accused of allowing his friends to hide some stolen cases of Coca-Cola in our shed. I was only 6 years old when my dad hid himself underneath my brother's bed and waited for him to come home. My father came from underneath the bed with the hammer in one hand and his pistol in the other. My brother pleaded with him to calm down. Rock told my brother, choose his medicine.
I'm done. You're dead to me.
I never liked trying certain cases, especially those involving child molesters and rapists. I especially don't like representing people who are accused of killing babies. But on any given day, I will sign up a client accused of such acts depending on how broke I am. It's hard for people not to prejudge someone accused of killing a baby. I'm no different. I know from experience that baby killers usually involve a jealous boyfriend or a stepdad. Child molesters are also included in this class. I know that some parents do kill their own, much like some animals eat their young. David cried when we first met. At this point in my life, I still can't separate tears of sorrow from those of guilt. I try very hard not to become too cynical, but I'm tired of being played by my clients.
If you've ever desired to know, what does an attorney go through defending criminals, then Faces I Have Seen is a must read. Through this book, you will see how one man's troubled past secured his promising future. Order now and explore the inconceivable truth.
A lot of times there is a thin line between the law and the lawless.
Right.
And you see it a lot of times in cop shows and stuff, but they never really show it from a lawyer standpoint.
These stories forced him to question his own views on certain things and allowed him to grow through his own pain, which you definitely see through here. You know, so it allowed him to kind of grow.
I felt like it was a catharsis, if that's the word that I could use, because it struck me as this wasn't something he would just sit down and talk with his boys about. You know, this was a forum for him to kind of deal with those issues. You know, to put them out there and to, I don't know, realize that he has those issues, or to see how deep those issues are, and to in some way deal with them. So I kind of saw it as a catharsis in that aspect, and also, I mean, we're dealing with murder on a daily basis as your job, so you need an outlet for that as well. So
it's like, you know, these people are guilty, yet you have to defend them. You've had all this stuff happen to you when you're a child. You see all these guilty people, and you don't necessarily like all that, but here you are, you have to defend these people, you know.
The lawyer's choosing that case. You can say yes or no.
So what you have to drop the
right,
not like me. He
decided he wanted to represent me. Right, and so over and over and over again, he is choosing to put himself in that environment, in those situations, and so that, to me, like, how does a person choose this?
It's like, I want to see this play out week to week. Yeah, I mean, because it's not even, it kind of puts me in the mind of Law and Order, but not, you know what I'm saying? It's as interesting as Law and Order was, or is, but it's more interesting because it's personal to him, and the crimes are grittier.
Right.
You know, so
yeah.
It makes for a really interesting reading, very vivid.
You know, it's very gripping. You know, as a younger reader, I feel like it's something that, you know, I feel like younger people can learn from. You know, really show them the right path to take, and learn from the pitfalls that some of these people in the stories have fallen into.
Everybody that sees this book will want to read it. I mean, it is very intense, very emotional. It draws you in. I mean, I'm glad he had the courage and the willingness to share.
Oh, well, this book could touch all classes and ages. And the language in there is kind of, you know, right to the point. But I think if he sugar-coated the language, it wouldn't be as powerful as it is, you know. You have to talk about it like the street. It happened in the street. It was crude and rude, but that's the way life was. And he had to tell you exactly the way he grew up and the way these cases were, because if he tried to make it look good, then you wouldn't get the impact of it.
That's with the youth's fascination with crime and murder, you know, with other shows like Law and Order and The First 48. The book is just a more intimate look at that, and what I like about the book is that it shows the back history. it doesn't just show you the criminal and, oh, this person killed someone. It shows you that they're actually circumstances and sometimes victims of circumstances. They're human beings that made a wrong turn. And I like that it shows their history, their situation, instead of just showing you, okay, instead of going backwards, it pretty much goes forward and leads you on and shows you their character and where they came from.
Faces I've Seen really focuses on me, the criminal defense attorney, and the client, the person who's accused of murder. And in a left-handed sort of way, Faces I've Seen humanizes the defendant. It humanizes how people, sometimes good people get caught up in bad situations, how sometimes good people do bad things, and how at the root of a lot of this stuff, how when one becomes emotionally imbalanced, how crazy stuff can happen, a la murder. On one hand, you hate when anybody is murdered, just from a human point of view, humanistic point of view. But when you represent someone, it's a matter of months that you get to learn this person. And somehow, in short of being friends, this person becomes someone that you have some sort of attachment to. And so with that in mind, I found myself having to reach really, really deep into bringing the best and being the best that I could be in representing this person. And always, always, I try to find something about the person that I liked or respect, because that makes it easier in terms of giving your best effort. Even though you think that you're a professional, you're still a human, right? And you look for those human things to attach yourself to make you more effective.
Faces I Have Seen is more than a memoir. It is a psychological analysis of the human experience. It takes a long, hard look at how we treat ourselves and each other. Though many of the stories are tragic in nature, the knowledge gained from this one man's humble tale is priceless. You have heard a wide array of readers say Faces I Have Seen is a must-read. Now, it's time for you to be the judge. Don't miss the opportunity to experience Faces I Have Seen for yourself.
The title of this book comes from the sheer number of people I've represented in murder cases. Faces of all different types, ages, sizes, races, and socioeconomic status, both male and female. Most of these people and my representation of them became a part of my life, and some I came to admire, if not love.